Welcome to The Explainer. We all grew up with stories of heroes, guys with swords, right, defeating monsters with sheer brute force. But the tale we're looking at today, it's got a very different kind of hero. So, today we're diving deep into a classic fairy tale from the Indian subcontinent. And it asks this really cool question. What if your greatest weapon wasn't a sword at all, but just an act of kindness? It's a story packed with monsters and magic, but also a power that, let's be honest, is often totally underestimated. All right, so our story kicks off way down deep beneath the waves. We've got a widowed sea queen and her 3 daughters. See, their king was lost in a huge battle, and with him, well, their whole royal life just vanished. Now they're living this quiet, simple existence in a humble little coral hut.
And to survive, they're depending on just 2 really precious things: the milk they get from a magical sea cow and this beautiful garden of glowing golden moss. And believe me, this moss isn't just for looks. It's literally what's keeping their family afloat.
But then, one morning, everything changes. Their fragile peace is completely shattered. The eldest daughter goes out and discovers that huge patches of their garden have just been torn away. Someone, a thief, is stealing their golden moss, and with it, they're stealing their only hope for survival.
So naturally, the 2 eldest daughters, who are super confident and brave, they step up. They volunteer to stand guard and catch this thief. But they're about to learn that facing this monster, it's going to take a lot more than just courage.
Okay, so the first night, the eldest sister confronts the thief. And oh boy, it is a massive sea ogre. She tries to be all bold, she challenges him. But he just kind of scoffs at her, grabs her with this huge rocky arm, and just tosses her into his basket, right along with the moss he stole.
But getting captured, that's just the beginning of her problems. Now she's imprisoned in the ogre's cave, and these tiny little sea sprites come up to her, pleading for just a little bit of her food. And her response? It's just cold and mocking. And that right there, that act of selfishness, not the ogre's brute strength, is what really seals her fate. So, the next night? You guessed it, the whole thing happens all over again. The second sister gets captured, and sure enough, she's faced with the exact same test from the sea sprites. And what does she do? She also chooses selfishness. She fails the very same test of character. It just goes to show, their whole approach, direct confrontation and pure self-interest, it's just doomed to fail. So now, with her 2 older sisters just gone, only the youngest daughter is left. And she's known for something totally different. Not her aggression, but her kindness. And that is the quality that's about to change the entire story. She's determined to find her sisters, but her methods, they're going to be completely different.
And yep, she gets captured too. She finds herself in the same ogre's cave. But when those sea sprites show up, her response changes everything. Instead of hoarding her food like her sisters did, she just smiles and generously offers to share it with every single one of them. And by breaking that pattern of selfishness, she sets a whole new chain of events in motion.
And that one single act of generosity, it earns her something her sister's aggression never could: powerful allies. One of the sprites actually stays behind and offers to help her with the ogre's impossible task, which is to weave a magical sea cloth. But of course, there's a catch. The sprite's help comes with a condition, and it's a classic fairy tale riddle, right? He says he'll complete the task for her, but only if she can figure out his secret name.
Later that same night, her character gets tested yet again. A tired old sea witch shows up, asking for shelter. Now, the princess can't exactly let her stay in the cave, but she doesn't just turn her away empty-handed. She gives her food for her journey. It's another one of those small acts of compassion that, you guessed it, is about to have enormous consequences.
And this kindness is repaid almost immediately. The old sea witch, while she's resting near a coral mound, hears this strange song coming from inside it. So she peeks through a little crack, and what does she see? The little sprite bossing his workers around and singing his own name out loud in his excitement. So she swims right back to the cave to tell the princess everything.
So the next morning, the princess has a little fun with it. She playfully guesses a few wrong names, and then she smiles and says, "Then, is your name Purifil?" Well, the sprite just turns bright red with rage, and boof! He vanishes in a cloud of sea foam. But he leaves behind the perfectly woven magical cloth. Her kindness and her cleverness have totally passed the test.
Now, the ogre is absolutely delighted with the cloth. I mean, his trust in the princess is now total. His guard is completely down and she sees her chance. It is time to hatch a plan. And not just to escape,
but to rescue her sisters too.
Her plan is so simple, but it's brilliant. She's going to use the ogre's own strength against him. First, she convinces him to deliver this heavy basket of gifts to her mother, but of course, her eldest sister is hidden inside. He just agrees, no suspicion at all. The next day, she pulls the same trick with her second sister, and then finally with herself. She literally tricks this all-powerful ogre into being their unwitting delivery service. How clever is that?
So once the family is finally back together, they don't just hide. Oh no, they prepare for the ogre's inevitable return. They start weaving nets of poisonous spiky coral. They summon these magical ice whirlwinds. And remember those sprites? Well, thanks to the youngest daughter's alliance, they now have a whole army of them on their side, all armed with tiny little daggers.
When the ogre shows up, he's lured right into the ambush. The giant is completely ensnared. The magical nets, the ice whirlwinds, they all start to turn his body to stone. Then the sea sprites swarm him, and the powerful beast is finally defeated. He's transformed into a permanent stone rock, right there on the seafloor for good.
And so, the story leaves us with this really powerful idea, doesn't it? The older sisters, they met brute force with more force, and they failed. The youngest sister, though, she won. Not by fighting harder, but by being smarter. And her cleverness was born directly from her compassion. It really makes you wonder, maybe true strength isn't about confronting monsters head-on. Maybe it's about having the wisdom to turn potential enemies into allies, all through something as simple as an act of kindness.